So, hello. Just going to talk a little bit about rejection, and this is follows on from something we did in our home church last night. And originally, I set out just to make a little video just for their benefit, rather than me writing reams and reams of notes which might not get read, or a massive, great WhatsApp that probably is broken into two parts. And I just thought this might be a better way of doing it. And so here it is. And at some point, I might even enlarge on some of this. But we just talked a bit about rejection and really in its broadest sense and stuff that happens to us and is said over us and stuff that we pick up when we're little that it affects the rest of our lives and it leaves us feeling less than is perhaps one way of putting it, leaving us feeling in some ways small or insignificant or passed over, not very good, not clever. The amount of women that say to me, I'm not very clever, because it's been said to them, but they're quite clever. There's nothing unclever about them. Um, the feeling of not being wanted, perhaps not loved, not cared for, not valued. And behind all that, the question is who's behind all that? Because if we want to understand this, we need to know who's behind it. And who's behind it is Satan, is the enemy. It's the evil one, the one who comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And his purpose is to make you feel powerless, to make you feel feeble, to make you feel ineffective. And once we understand where this has come from, then and that it's a lie, that it's stuff that's untrue, then we can begin to deal with it. The truth is, you are made to be loved, and you are made to be able to love, and to be secure in who you are. And a lot of people are left unable to love properly, unable to be loved properly, to receive love properly, um, and insecure in who they are. And this is because the enemy has played a wicked trick on them. And you can watch this happening to children now as they're growing up. The just the evilness of this that's being worked out in their lives. And hopefully, if you get free for this, you are then able to understand it better, understand what's going on, prevent your own children, if you have any, growing up with this, and rectify this issue, bring healing into the lives of other children. So I think I just want to tell you a little bit of my story without going into massive detail. But I was brought up by a mum who didn't want me because I was a surprise baby. She wasn't expecting a baby, and she got one, and it interfered with her life. And she was also a very domineering woman, and my dad was a very quiet man. So mum ruled the roost. Dad really just stepped back when he should have intervened, and she went on to have another child because she thought the two of them could look after each other and she wouldn't have to be involved. But she had a really inbuilt dislike for me that went on for years. And I grew up, and she was quite different in how she treated both of us. So she was quite favourite. My sister was the favourite, and I was very obviously not wanted. And she used to tell me that I was useless, I was a failure, I wouldn't amount to much. Um, and she's quite cruel, actually, in some of the ways that she brought me up physically, mentally, particularly. So I grew up with all this, and I grew up feeling insecure, and I grew up feeling that probably nobody really wanted me, that I wasn't very good, and that I was insignificant. And that's how I grew up, and that's the picture I grew up with myself. And uh, I thought when I got saved, when I became a Christian when I was 30, 28 actually, I became aware of some of this stuff and how it was rejection, and I dealt with a bit of it, and I thought it was gone, but it wasn't really. And then about 20 years ago, I went through a really bad patch in life where things started to fall apart in a couple of areas. I was very involved in church life, and some of that started to come apart. And this is not recent, and it was to do. Some of it was my identity was in what I was doing, and that was removed for a while, not through any fault of mine, but it was just a lot of reorganization and so on, which was badly handled, I think, looking back. And in my closest personal relationship, that started to come apart, and all this, you just begin to see everything through this perspective of I'm insignificant, I'm not really wanted, people don't really like me. And I went through a period of depression, I went through a period of self-harm, and I used to violently hit myself, slap myself. I used to find things to hit myself with, in places where people couldn't see the marks or the bruises, and that was a sign of pain going on inside that I couldn't resolve. And the self-harm sort of brought, I don't know, an adrenaline rush, something like that, and it just, you felt better for it for the moment, but it never really went away. So that's all this stuff and what it does to you, and it's not really good. And what the enemy wants you to do is to believe in your heart that this is who you really are: insignificant, unloved, not wanted, not clever, not special in any way. He wants you to be able to say it. That's If he can get you to say it, he is really on a winner. And I used to say it to myself. I used to say, "You're useless. You're a failure." I would say it out loud, and that's what I felt. And I just felt really I was rubbish, and this was the truth, and that I needed to hear the truth. And I would say it over myself, and he wants you to be able to think it, to see your whole life through this lens. And when you get to the point where you're saying nothing works for me, things always go wrong, people always pass me by or overlook me, then really you have been sucked into playing his game big time. And the key is in those words, nothing and always. You know, those the finality of those, nothing ever works for me, I always get overlooked. When you're starting to say that, actually you're pronouncing lies, because it's not actually true. Some people don't overlook you, some people do talk to you, some people do think about you, some people do care for you, but there may be some that don't. And always in life there'll be those that don't and those that do. And the truth is, for me, I am who I am. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. You might be looking at this and thinking, "You're not my cup of tea, mate." You may be close to switching this off. But my goal is not to be Mr. Popular, and not to wonder why I'm not Mr. Popular either. And my goal is just to keep myself right, live my life right, follow Jesus right, understand his word right, understand who he says I am, and and be secure in that, really. So if some of this is your problem, we really come to the answer here now. And the answer starts with, you're born again. If you're a Christian, you are born again. You are a new person. And what matters now is who God says you are, not what the enemy says you are, or what anybody else says you are. Does God say you're a failure? Does he say you're useless? Does he say you're no good? Does he overlook you? No. Does he say you're not wanted? Does he consider you to be in the way? No, absolutely not. And the trouble is that we have grown up with these well-established thought patterns, and we're just seeing everything through that lens of those thought patterns, and change needs to happen. And there's quite a bit in the New Testament about changing how we think. But the two most popular or well-known verses, Romans 12 and verse 2, it says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's the first one. We'll come to the second one in a minute. And the battleground for all of this stuff is in the mind. That's where the enemy fights us, in the mind. The battleground's in the mind. We need to transform how we think. Be transformed by the renewing, by changing our minds. Really, just changing our mind, thinking differently. And the second one is in 2 Corinthians 10:6, and it's about taking captive every thought. And I used to struggle with this because I don't know about you, but my thoughts in my mind go 10 to the million zillion all the time. I mean, I could start in one place and be somewhere else before I know it. And it's not uncontrolled. It's just that's how our mind works. And the thought of taking captive every thought one by one just seems to me to be an impossibility. And I think God showed me something about this. And I think it's not taking up to this thought and this thought, this thought, this thought, this thought, but it's the train of thoughts. Every train of thought. So in this whole area of people don't really like me, okay, that's something that comes out of a feeling of rejection. And normally we jog along, we're fine. Something happens. Somebody seems to cut us off. Somebody ignores us. Somebody who was normally friendly suddenly seems unfriendly or distant. And it might be quite reasonable. They might actually have just got something else to do that day. But in our rejection thinking, we catch on, oh, there's somebody else. Somebody who I thought cared for me doesn't want to see me today. And we go off into this, down this train, and it's just like the other person, and this happened before, and this always happens to me. And it's just something about me. It must be. And see, we've started with one thing. Somebody says, no, don't come round today because I'm doing something else. Quite reasonable. They're entitled to. They don't have to see you. They don't have to see me. But before we know it, the rejection thing has got hold of it. We've gone off down this little train. And what the Corinthians are saying is capture that train. Stop it. All right? And for me, I've learned to start to recognize these things as trains of thought. And when they start, I just say to myself, train. Just like that. Train. That's what it is. It's a train. And that just interrupts it before I let myself go off down. Sometimes I find myself halfway down that line. It might be a rejection. It might be other things. Sometimes we struggle with ingrained patterns of thought that are not nice, not holy, not godly. It could be all kinds of things, but they're not godly ways of thinking. And sometimes for me, I just catch myself in them, and I just out loud, I say, train, and it stops because I know what my mind is away off after. Like a dog after a rabbit, really. And I just need to stop it. Now, it takes time. It takes practice. It doesn't come instantly. It doesn't come in 2 days, but it comes fairly quickly if we're prepared to do it. And actually, one thing that's really useful is to say, Holy Spirit, will you just show me when I'm embarking on a train of thought that's not good? All right? The other side of this, there's probably there is a lot more to this, but the other side of this is knowing who God thinks you are and how he sees you and being secure in that. But behind all this, knowing that there's a truth and there's a lie. And knowing when we are starting to listen to the lie, actually. And if we care to analyze it enough, we'll see that the truth is true, and there are people who care for us. There are people who value us, and that we have a significance, and we have a value, and we have done stuff well. All right. The other thing that you could do that can help others is when you see others who suffer from this kind of stuff, don't confront them. unless you're in some kind of a pastoral caring relationship. But just affirm them, build them up. Just let them see when they are doing well, when they are valued, that you value them, that you care for them, and that they are good, and that they are special, and that they are loved. All right? So I hope that helps. So there we go. That is my first one. I'm in the process of setting up a YouTube channel and go on there eventually. So there you go. And we look like it doesn't stop it.